The Self-Publishing Show is sponsored by Pro Writing Aid. Pro Writing Aid has been my go-to tool for revising and refining my writing since my first book. Built by writers for writers, it's more than just a grammar and spell checker. Pro Writing Aid helps you enhance your story's pacing, plot, characters, settings, and more. It can even provide on-demand developmental feedback on your entire manuscript with its new manuscript analysis and virtual beta reader tools. Get ahead of the competition by heading to prowritingaid.com and sign up for free using the code IWC15 for a 15% discount off annual subscriptions.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hey, it's the Self-Publishing Show. I am James Blatch.
And I am Cissy Mecca.
We've been talking about whether you're Cissy or Cissy. You're Cissy, but people hear Cissy, they say Cissy, and now you're confused. Now you're anxious about whether you should say Cissy or not.
Cecilia is pretty straightforward, and it's easy. I think Cissy can get confusing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still having an identity crisis. Maybe we can have like a vote or something. I don't know, James. Am I Cecilia? Am I Cissy?
You want the listeners of the show to tell you what your name is.
I know what my name is. Do you know what I really like, actually? So Riccardo Bayet has the best name for me in Italian. Apparently, unless he was teasing, I don't know. If you have a PhD, I would be, are you ready for this? Have you heard this one yet?
No.
Dottoressa Cecilia. Should I be that?
Doctoressa. Is that like a female doctor? Doctoressa.
Cecilia. Which is how they say Sicilian. I actually really like it. The first time I heard it, I came back from Italy and I asked my friends, I said, you know what? I think this is what I want to go by. I love it. Cecilia. And they just laughed and that was it.
No, they said, Cissy.
Yeah.
Drink your drink. Okay, Cissy. There's not many Cissy. I mean, there was Cissy Peniston. Do you remember her?
No, who was that?
She had an 80s hit, I think, or 90s hit. I can't remember what the words were now, but I remember the song. There's CeeLo Green. He's got a C at the beginning. C. But
I another if I wanted it to be, right? CC.
No, you're not allowed any more pen names. You've got too many pen names. Listen, we are going to talk about something really important because we've been in a room with some other authors in Savannah, Georgia for the last few days. And so we're going to talk about some of the topics that came up, some of the things we talked about in the bar afterwards. And the big news is the problem that's happened in recent years of Amazon KDP being absolutely overwhelmed by submissions. I mean, thousands a day. And that making discoverability hard, driven by AI. It's been preceded by AI as well. I think people just uploading all sorts of stuff because there's no bar to entry to go up to KDP. One shocking stat that's doing the rounds and is public is that Drafter Digital have said publicly that they reject 30 to 70% of their uploads every day, and it's all sorts of crap, frankly, that they have to intervene on and cancel. Not
Crazy.
KDP has all this stuff going up. I guess they have their own filters as well. But that's making it very difficult for authors who spend like a year working on a book and releasing it to have any visibilities. The landscape has got dramatically harder in the last 18 months, 2 years. But the good news is we've come up with a solution. So we're going to tease it ahead and then we're going to announce it. And we spoke to some Amazon people about it. Obviously, they
said, yes, we could do it.
They were non-committal at this stage, but that's why we're going to talk about it on the show, and I'm going to blog about it because we're going to get it going around as an idea, and so we're going to come back to that in the show. But we're going to talk about some of the other stuff that we talked about. First of all, it was nice to be in the room with some authors for a few days, and it reminded me. My to-do list is. I don't think I wrote down anything I hadn't heard of before, but I wrote down stuff that I know I should be doing. I'd forgotten about. Yes. And one of those big takeaways for me is YouTube. So I took my audiobooks out of exclusive about 4 years ago or something. I mean, ages ago, 3 years ago maybe. And with a view to, and I did, to be fair, I've used one of the aggregators to get them wide. I guess Drafter Digital, I can't remember, but to get them wide and everywhere. But I really want to use YouTube. I really want to get my YouTube account to 1,000 listening hours, which I think is the point at which you can then monetize it, and then episodically release my audiobooks onto YouTube, onto a monetized account, and then drive traffic there using YouTube Shorts. That was a takeaway that I hadn't heard before from the show, from the Savannah gathering. We're not going to name too many names. It was a small gathering of authors, so we'll just talk about some of the themes that came up. But one or two people in the room are going to be talking at SBS Live in London, and I can tell you they're going to be really good. So that was my kind of major thing that's on my to-do list that I'm really committed to doing. And then there were quite a few other smaller things, particularly around discoverability, which sort of led us to this conversation about how we're going to solve this. But discoverability in the age of AI. Any sort of headlines for you from takeaways?
I have like you, I was looking for that one big red easy button, millionaire author, 7 figures. I've been looking for that for years, haven't found it. I don't think it exists. Actually, that's one thing I've learned over the past few years. Like you, though, little things, tweaks. I did write down the YouTube Shorts as well, because repurposing, if I am already making a video for TikTok, I know I stick it on Instagram Reels. I kind of forgot about the YouTube thing because I just never prioritize it. I always wonder if YouTube would really be good for my genre. I mean, romance, I'm sure, I know there are a lot of people there. I know it's a huge search engine, but I have kind of heard it's more of a male, there's more males there.
That was one of the surprising stats, wasn't it? It was like 90% male viewing on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube is a man's domain, apparently. And to be fair, there's a lot of golf videos.
That was like a pirate. I don't know. All men are pirates.
I do watch a lot of golf videos. I watch a lot of military aviation stuff, and I suppose that is all mainly kind of male orientated, but no reason why women don't watch golf videos and military aviation, but it's more men than women, I guess. But that was surprising. But then, my Cold War thrillers, that's a male audience. My audience are classically, I think they really are in that wheelhouse so this is definitely one for me more than perhaps you.
Yeah. But also if I have a video, it's easy enough. If I can just take an hour and make my channel look decent, which is something I haven't done in years, it's easy enough to repurpose a video onto YouTube Shorts, and it can't hurt anything if you have the video already. It's a new discovery engine. And I wrote down audio wide ? So mine is all exclusive right now, and there was a lot of talk about it wide, that strategy of putting it on YouTube. And I know one of the things they mentioned, I wrote down specifically on that topic, was to kind of put chunks. And do you remember why? It was more of a discoverability thing. I think somebody mentioned they wouldn't just drop the whole thing going forward, kind of put it chunks of chapters, 4 or 5 chapters, I think, or whatever, however.
Or maybe even just a chapter at a time.
Yeah, for discoverability. So that's a big question mark for me. Focused on translations at the moment, but I know I have to give my audio more attention. And I think one way to do that might be to try to take it wide, because then there's so much more to do. I wrote, chirp deals and Spotify. I love the Spotify people and would love to work with them a little bit more. So yeah, I'm a little unsure on it. I have a question mark, not going to move on it. It's not under my immediate action items, but it's there, for a potential. I don't know. How did you do wide? I mean, do you think did it work well for you? Taking it wide?
My main income is still ACX and Spotify. So the immediate thing, and the immediate reason I wanted to do it, I think, was to take advantage of Spotify, which I saw was a growing platform, and they were serious about it. We met the guys, Scott Curry and others from Spotify, and Christine. They are organized and they are growing that platform for audiobooks, and I felt like I wanted to be a part of that. So I did it for that reason. And Spotify immediately more than made up for the drop in royalty you go from when you go non-exclusive in Audible. So it immediately paid back, and I get good income from Spotify. But still, ACX is not insignificant for me. I remember I only have 2 audiobooks. These are smaller figures, but Spotify does operate in a slightly odd way in that in fact, both ACX and Spotify, neither of them are wholly satisfactory in their data of what you see. But Spotify does this thing where it looks like nothing's happened for 2 months, and then suddenly you get this big chunk of money, and you think, oh, I guess that can't just be. And it says it's this month, like March, but it must actually be December, January, and March put together. But anyway, it's nice when that happens. So,
and they talked about too Spotify Shorts. Is that what that it's kind of newly launched?
Yes.
They're hungry for shorts, and I have it written down here somewhere. It's like 10K ish, and that's interesting as well. So I think I might pull the trigger on this at some point.
That is really interesting, and that kind of fits into how people listen to Spotify. I don't think ACX would necessarily get away with that or be beneficial because they don't have that audience expectation or trained to listen to shorts. In fact, the opposite is true in ACX. People with the credit system want bang for buck. So they, you know, if you put an anthology together or a box set together, that does well on Audible. But Spotify, we all use in our, you know, we have it in our back pocket all the time, and I use it all the time when I'm running, etc. You are used to listening to shorter stuff. I'm a bit distressed. So I don't listen to audiobooks a lot. I listen to podcasts and listen to music. But when I travel, I always choose an audiobook because it just lends itself to it. And also just on an unselfish thing, when you're in a hotel room by yourself, you can have a little speaker on, can't you? Whereas my wife would probably be annoyed at midnight if I put my audiobook on. And I chose, because I heard a couple of people raving about it, Andy Weir's project, Hail Mary, which is coming out in a film form soon with Ryan Gosling. And I started listening to that. Oh my God, it's the best audiobook I've ever listened to in my life.
Wait.
It's absolutely addictive. Literally from the first chapter, you are completely hooked on this book, to the point where I don't think you noticed this, but there were moments when we were out in Georgia over the last week, and I was looking at my watch thinking, when can I get back to my hotel room and continue to listen to this audio?
I noticed.
Also jet lag.
I noticed. Yeah, it was jet lag. Sure.
Yeah. And I've been listening to it the whole way back. Obviously, I slept on the flight. Actually, I got 5.5 hours sleep. I was quite really pleased about that on the flight on the way back. But then the rest of the time listening to it all the way on the train, got home, had to stop listening to it, obviously, to talk to my wife who hadn't seen me for a week. And then I was listening to it in the shower. And now I've got to stop this because I'm in the last like hour and a half of the book now, maybe less than that.
So you basically want to be listening to that and not here talking to
now I'm talking to you. But you know, every now and again, it's perfect format for it. It's a fantastic narrator, an actor who does brilliant voices, but they've also had to do a few little sound effects in it just because of the nature of the book. And you know, when you see the film, you'll understand what that is. But anyway, I thought I'd just talk about that. But distressingly, found out you can't listen to Audible on Garmin.
Oh.
No way. Well, there is a way, but it's very clunky. You have to download the audiobook into MP3, then upload it to your watch in MP3. So basically my marathon training where I'm doing 2.5 hours runs and you really, really want some stuff to listen to, you can't listen to ACX, and that needs to be sorted out pronto.
Oh.
I mean, by the end of the day, I would say.
So you can listen to it on your run later? Maybe.
It needs to be there. You mentioned pirates. We did go to a pirate museum, didn't we?
Maybe that's why I'm a little bit in my pirate era. I know real pirates are bad. I just want to put that disclaimer out there because I understand that to be the case. But we're talking more about at the museum, it was actually pirates. But I have a pirate story idea now that I've been ruminating for a long time, and it's kind of refreshed. But yeah, what did you think of the museum? It was
I really liked it. Although I don't think either of us answered the question, what is the difference between a pirate and a buccaneer? We're still not sure, are we?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I just know it was more gruesome than I guess realized. I mean, Johnny Depp wasn't that bad. Like,
no, Johnny Depp wasn't that bad, but Black Bart was. He was the worst of them. We read about him. He's more. I mean, he deserves to be more well known than Blackbeard, who actually only was a pirate for 2 years, but somehow got his PR right, so everyone knows his name. But it's a bit like when you go into one of those medieval torture museums and you look at the inventive ways they came up with slowly killing people over several days and the most gruesome things you can imagine. That's what pirates did. These pirates did it, and And yeah, we read a lot of very graphic descriptions. In fact, there was a whole area of the museum. The other side of the pirate bar was a area of the museum not suitable for children, which was awesome.
Yeah, because we could walk through the, torturous places with grog. So that was really cool.
Grog, yes.
But yeah, so now I have a pirate idea, but to be fair, this is an idea that I have been mulling for years. And so being there kind of solidified it. That and your chat with me about my next story. So I think we're going to go for it. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why these things, this is why I need to travel. Mike Mecca, this is Mr. Mecca. If you're listening, this is why I need to travel extensively. We just get these ideas.
To be fair, Mr. Mecca does just let you travel everywhere. You don't really need, as Mrs. Blatch does as well.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. Shout out to the spouses.
So yeah, shout out to the spouses. So the other things, I guess we talked a lot about discovery in the era of AI, and there are two aspects to that. One is that there's just a huge amount of more content, which we're going to come on to the fantastic idea we've got to sort that out. But in terms of people searching now, they're using AI, whether they like it or not. Google in particular returns an AI first, which is increasingly taking up more and more, like a third of the page. And in often cases, it's as far as it goes. And soon there's going to be links directly to buy the stuff that it comes up with. So instead of people typing in Colleen Hoover books or for enemies to lovers books, they're typing in, I really like Colleen Hoover, I really like Lucy Score, I want to read an enemies to lovers book, something that's been popular, released in the last 2 years. Can you suggest anything? So you have this long form conversation, and you need to be set up as an author to have a long form answer to that. So your blurb needs to have in English a kind of couple of sentences at the bottom, which is really just there for when AI scrapes it. But on top of that, more challenging is that you need credibility so that AI is going to take you seriously and put you in a result. And at the moment, that's very heavily skewed towards traditional publishing, because it finds that authors are on Wikipedia, which is a big one. It finds authors are talked about on Reddit, which is another one. It finds that those authors have had newspaper articles about them. And those are the ticks and boxes the AI, the LLM, is looking for to know this is a credible, real result. Whereas you and me only have a few mentions, or most everyone listening to this show only have a few mentions here and there in blogs and stuff. And so it's really doing that, thinking about getting yourself onto Reddit and getting your name mentioned, getting your name mentioned in blog posts, ideally newspaper articles, even if it's like a local newspaper article. And the big one is trying to get a Wikipedia page, which is easier said than done.
I've heard that's pretty difficult. But there are a few little things I wrote down, James, that we can't do some of the big things. I know Wikipedia, for instance, is going to be tough for most of us, but things like, optimizing your FAQ page on your website for search. I mean, I have an FAQ page, but I have, make sure it's optimized with some of those keywords. You mentioned blurbs, having the blurb of your books obviously optimized, but also apparently, and I can't pretend to know the back end of why all these things work, but having it be the same everywhere. So updating your blurb on Goodreads. We have to go to Goodreads to do that. Goodreads, BookBub, Amazon, Google Play for the preview, which we should also be uploading for, having all of those the same. And then also Google Play. And I think that was something mentioned at NINC potentially. So putting your books on not Google Play, Google Books, but as a preview. And I do use Google Play to do that because I was white at one point, but I think there's other ways to get on there. But making sure that you have a preview of your book, if you're in KU like me, 10%, no more than 10%. But and I'm having to reformat my books because I noticed when I'm uploading to Google Play, the default is 20%. That's like the minimum. So I started uploading my books, clicking what I thought was 10% because it was just kind of that minimum click, and then realizing very quickly, this is going to get me in trouble. This is not 10%, it's 20%. So I've had to go back, basically use Vellum, make one chapter of the book and have a preview just for that book. I'm sorry, just for Google Play. but do you remember why that works
Yeah,
particularly?
well, that's so we should give a shout out to Ricardo Fayette, who is from Reedsy. You mentioned him earlier, and Ricardo really did a lot of research in this running up to Nink. So if you go to reedsy.com, by the way, and join his mailing list, is a good place to get a lot of this information. So he did some analysis of the returns getting from AI, and I think it was 100% of the returns of the books mentioned by AI were on Google Books. And so your book needs to be there. And just to if you're getting a bit confused about what we're talking about here, if you're exclusive, you're on Kindle Unlimited, you can't upload your book to Google Play, but you can upload a preview of 10% or less than your book to Google Books, and you can say it's a preview. And actually, I think it doesn't really matter how many words are there. It's just the listing needs to be there for AI to see it. But you might as well make it a decent, the 10% that you're allowed. Yeah, and just doing that became a bit tricky because it can take more than 10% of your entire book. So what you need to do is create a new version of a manuscript of your book that is just 10%, so you don't fall foul of the rules of Unlimited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been just doing a chapter or two and uploading that. So now I have, the Thieves Countess preview. And that's useful for other things too. I'm actually using it for my website as I'm updating the website, making sure that blurb matches every other blurb. So I mentioned this at the conference, at the, mastermind that we were at. It's overwhelming, I think, sometimes to do so many things like this. We have in KU the ability to put our books in libraries now using draft to digital. So doing that, updating for the LLMs, there's so many things to do. So I've been doing one book a day, and I have it as a task list, book update. I'm updating the blurb to optimize it while I'm there, updating the keywords. I'm putting the book in draft to digital, even though I'm not wide, if it's not in there already, just so that I can get into libraries. I'm doing what we just mentioned on Google Play, and just kind of one book a day, hopefully, because some days I don't do it, but hopefully by like mid-year, I should have all 45-ish books completely optimized. And then there'll be a new thing that I have to start from scratch, I'm sure. But that seemed to be kind of people liked that idea because there's so much else that we have to do. The idea of doing all of these things for someone with a backlist of, 40, 50, one author there had 200 plus books, like that's a lot. And we don't all have PAs. I know I don't. And so, you have to write too sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the libraries. That was another thing that came up.
Yes.
And we probably can advertise that Dan Wood was there from Draft to Digital. So he just reminded people that actually there's still lots and lots of authors who are not taking advantage of the fact that even if you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can now have your books listed in the library services, thanks to a change in the policy by Amazon KDP. And it's money on the table, right? And you can price the book quite highly for libraries. They get borrowed, so the end user, it's not price sensitive in the sense that the end user isn't paying for it. It's a borrow by the library, so you get that money. So definitely go to D2D. I mean, other services are available, but I use Draft to Digital and get your book listed. And then it's very easy not to accidentally put it into somewhere that's going to fall foul of the terms of your KU membership. There's a section at the bottom of the services that you would upload it to, you distribute it to, that is just libraries. So that's very easy to do as well. Yeah, we talked about AI. Shell Honecker was there, and Shell is this genius on AI. We're not talking about writing books, we're talking about organizing your life and processes and workflows. And Shell sort of demonstrated a product that she's working on. And I think basically we're going to have Shell on the show. We should have Shell on the show.
It was amazing.
Quite hard to say. We're going to have Shell on the show sometime soon. Yes, and Shell will talk about the product that she's creating, which is really leveraging the power of AI to look after all the various things we do, from writing to publishing and marketing, in one place, in one platform. So she's developing that at the moment, and that was actually quite impressive. So so should we move on to the solution to the AI problem?
We can do that. I just have one little asterisk I do want to mention, because I wonder if I'm the only author who's been, I don't know, doing this now a while that didn't realize. So I talked to an Amazon rep there. Did you realize, you probably did, that if you put your book into Dave Chesson is going to, his head will explode. Probably know that I didn't know this, but if you put your book into a category, she said, quote, go deep with Amazon categories. So you know how you have your 3 categories for Amazon you can list your book in? I honestly didn't realize that if I put my book, don't waste it on historical romance. Go as deep as you can, because it also goes into all of those other categories. So I always have just a romance, historical, go romance, historical, Scottish, go as deep as you can, but that it also goes into all those other categories. I'm sure everyone else realized that, but I didn't. So I'm adding that to my book update checklist to make sure, because I'm basically on some books, I think, wasting a category, wanting to make sure I'm in that broad category of just like contemporary romance. Don't need to do that. So if I go into contemporary and then, they have an enemies to lovers, I'm also in contemporary. Did you know that? Yeah.
I sort of did know that, yeah. I think Dave pointed out actually that there's a dual danger of staying high level of being in contemporary romance, is that some of those top categories are actually, I think, what Dave calls ghost categories or zombie categories. They don't really exist. There's no list of books in those. They don't know. They don't. They are top level. So you can tick them, but actually you don't appear then in the kind of charts. You need to know where there's a chart for historical romance, etc. So I think he called them ghosts. So he would definitely say the same. Go deep. That's like an American football expression, isn't it? Go deep. I watch American stuff.
I mean, I'm not going to comment. I could bring it in the gutter, but I won't. We're going to stay nice and high level.
I see you were going to do the romance disgusting version. I did go to an air museum whilst I was in America.
That was an interesting segue. Is there some kind of a tie there that I'm not aware
No, I was just trying to get away from your mind where it's going. Okay, look, we had a sort of blue sky moment where we were talking about what would we like ideally in an ideal world to happen on Amazon and on other platforms, and what we'd like, and it is kind of the elephant in the room at the moment, is that a couple of years ago, whenever it was, 18 months ago, Amazon said that they are restricting the number of books you can upload every day to 3. Well, a lot of us were thinking, who writes 3 books a day? If you're a publisher, okay, I understand that, but we're talking about KDP, which is a self-publishing platform. Who's uploading 3 books a day? Well, of course, people are using AI to write 3 books a day. Now, sometimes they're taking the time and effort to write a novel, and they're leveraging AI, and it takes them actually much more time than 3 a day. So maybe 1 a month or something like once every 2 weeks. Even that's dramatically faster than we can write them. That's one thing. But right down at that kind of, we're going to do 10 books a day, these low content, crap-filled books, often non-fiction. Sometimes they're fiction. And the model there is not... here's America's next great novel, next bestseller. Here's a book that will sell 15 copies. But if you upload, what's 3 a day? 3 a day times 360, that's 1,000 books a year. If you upload 1,000 books a day and sell, say, 25 copies each, that's a decent number of copies, and it's going to bring you money in, even if the quality is extremely poor, and you don't sell any more than 25 copies. You're on to the next one already. And obviously you can leverage AI to do the covers and stuff, and they can look pretty good now as well. So the problem, and the blurb and everything, and the whole package can be done in minutes. The problem for those of us who spend 2 years writing a book is that we are launching our books into that overly saturated market now, and discoverability is becoming more difficult. And I did notice on the first session of this lovely couple of days we had with some amazing authors, everyone was pretty downbeat, and no one sort of said that's why, but everyone just felt that we are wading through slurry at the moment, trying to keep our heads above it. Now, I'm pro AI. I think it's a fantastic new technology. I'm excited about it. I think it's wonderful for what we do, and I've seen people who write on it, but see, the people who are writing quality books using AI take a long time to do it. This is the other side of that, which I've always known is there. So what is the solution? Well, I came up with a sort of what sounds like a simple and elegant solution that will probably never be implemented. But I've suggested that KDP starts charging for uploads. It charges $300 to upload a book, which sounds like a lot. But you could even get this money back. They could even have a system where once you've sold $500 worth of your book, you start to get that money back over the next sort of $600, over $300. It doubles every dollar you get paid back. But it costs $300. Now, there's still going to be some people who will spend a lot of time using AI to create novels or create non-fiction books. And actually, fine. That's the world we live in. And I think it's always thought it's wrong of us to say, stop using that new technology because that disadvantages me. We're not in that. No one can do that. You can't do that if you're building cars. You can't do that in our industry. But what it does get rid of is that slurry underneath, those thousands of books going up every day. That suddenly overnight becomes uneconomical, and that model doesn't work. And that means we go back to KDP being a place of discovering new authors. Now, I'm not naive about this. I know at the top of Amazon on their board meetings, they're not sitting around saying, how can we make life better for independent authors? They're not thinking like that. They're thinking, how can we make life better for Amazon shareholders? And that's just how that system works. So they might well be looking at this thinking, I mean, this has happened. They can see much more than we can how many books are being uploaded and how KDP's nature is changing over the last 18 months. They might be thinking, this is our future. We're going to be this place that does a huge volume because it's digital, so it doesn't cost us that much to host the stuff. And we make money either way. It doesn't matter whether it's a million books that sell 25 copies each or 100,000 that sell several thousand copies each. It doesn't matter to them. So they might be thinking like that. But I do think at some point, and there probably is already a voice around that table that's saying, but the reader experience is what's being harmed here. The reader experience of trying to find those good books and trying to discover those authors. And if we look back over the last 10 years, how many independent authors have become global sensations because they've been discovered on KDP and people on TikTok have talked about them or whatever. And that is becoming more difficult, and it's what we worry about. You charge $300 to upload a book. Now, for you and me, I'm going to upload a book I'm really intending to write a book a year now, so I'm really working hard on that. But $300, it's less than the cover cost for me, and I'm serious about it. So, my publishing, it's absolutely fine for me. There might be some people listening who write a book a month, and for them, and they don't sell that many. I understand there's that kind of middle ground might harm. But for you, Cissy, how many books do you do? Like 3 books a year, 4 books a year?
Now that I'm back fully indie, I think 5 this year, I love to be at 1 a quarter. That's where I was kind of before I went trad. But yeah, 4 solid books a year. Maybe we'll throw in a novella, Christmas novella, holiday novella, something like that. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great idea. Everybody around the table thought it was a great idea. Did Amazon think, or will they think it's a great idea? I hope so. I mean, it makes sense to me. And honestly,
but you wouldn't mind it. I mean, it would add on $1,200, whatever, a year to you. But what you're paying for is much better environment to launch your book into.
Sure. I mean, the discoverability on Amazon was the hot topic of the day in Amazon, around the table. And I think it's going to continue to be a hot topic for indie authors, for authors. I mean, we've already been talking about direct sales and trying to reach readers because Amazon has been more and more difficult over the past few years. It's only going to get worse. Everyone, like you said, I can't remember being in an environment where everyone really did have that. By the time we were done, they didn't. But there was this feeling of almost, I don't want to say doom and gloom, but there was a little bit of a black cloud. I think it's really hard not to be in this environment. And this is somebody who uses AI every day for my back end business, not to think about, well, how will this affect us exactly? Because discoverability for a mid-list author is difficult. If you have already made your name and you're someone that readers search for by name, then I think it will affect you less. But if you're someone who relies on, being type medieval Scottish romance and then my book to pop up, this is going to be tough because we've already seen, in my genre, we'll talk about Cecilia Mecca. It's been littered with those companies that already upload. They were probably the ones before AI, uploading 3 books a day, 5 books a day, putting out these kind of content that people, my readers, say to me, do you know so-and-so? Because I just bought this book and it was horrible. It was, somebody else's book that was, all the words were changed and all this, and they recognize it, but they've already bought the book. And then a new name pops up. And this has been a thing. I think in medieval last year, we were looking at it, not last year, at NINC, in the top 100 books, and medieval romance, well over 50% were not actually authors. And I say authors in the sense of that they wrote the book. And whatever way they, wrote it and put it up. These were books that were, Franken books. And so it's already been difficult to get discovered. And if it's going to get worse, that's a problem, especially when ads are difficult too. Facebook ads have become, everything has been maybe a little bit more difficult lately. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. At first, everyone kind of looked at you like, what did he just say? And then the more you think about it, so maybe they'll take it back. And James, maybe it will be implemented. Who knows?
Well, I'm going to lobby for it because I think it's a good idea. And like I say, I'm not naive about the discussion that's going on inside Amazon about this. But I think they're all about reader experience. And how many times do you, if you fall foul of Amazon because something's wrong, they often quote the reader experience is not going to be served by this as the reason you've got to change something or you're not allowed to change the title or whatever. So yeah, I think it's good. And I was thinking the other day, we had Robin on a couple of weeks ago, Robin Bennett Freeburn, and he works so hard at this non-fiction book he does, What a Year to Be Born. He was talking about Etsy, but he uses Amazon as well. Now, I know he didn't mention it in his interview, but I think he's mentioned it previously, that there's somebody who's just copying him. And he has a front cover that looks almost identical with the same colors, the same squares of photographs. And he's hoping that people will buy his books by mistake. Now, he's the guy that you get rid of with this because he probably doesn't sell $300 worth of his books. He sells say a few hundred each time, and then he does a new book and goes and probably that person is mimicking 100 other people on Amazon. That's what he does all day. He looks for the sellers and then he mimics them, hoping that you're going to make a mistake and buy his. Yeah. So what that serves the reader experience, right? Because Robin's books are amazing and really well written, and his books are crap, and they look like they're going to be okay, and that serves the reader experience, does it not? To not have that happening. So yeah, and I think the more I talk about it out loud, the more I think about it, I think it probably does need to be paid back, not in the first $300 because that would be too easy to game that system. I think maybe once you've sold $500, that ranks you then as somebody who's serious about your book. You're happy to pay $300 knowing you're never going to get it back because you want to publish your book that's about your granddad or something. You want to see it on Amazon and publish, and $300 is something you're prepared to pay for that. But for those of us doing it commercially, starting to get that money back after $500, like I say, they could just double the royalty until that $300 is paid back. It's like a reverse advance. I think that's the right way of doing it. And that also would cover the big publishers who are uploading more than 3 a day on behalf of other people. If it's going to cost them $300 each time.
Yeah, I like it.
They'll probably will see that back. So yeah. So I think we've decided we're going to implement that.
Oh, good. I like it. I'm in.
So a little unusually, we're recording after we finish that recording and adding this in because after the recording, I posted this brilliant $300 idea I had, which is like a genius idea, next level. And it was so next level, no one else really understood it. And I've been in the firing line. So Substack has melted down a little bit with this and people are pretty angry. Disappointingly, actually, I have to say, Cissy, just first on that point, that there's a couple of people in there who I've been defending. I mean, literally last week I was defending one of those people and they came in for me with knives out, like no politeness, just fairly rude comments about me, is like my motivation, which is ridiculous. But I'll explain exactly what I meant by the $300 in a moment. But first of all, can we just be civil to each other?
I came onto Substack because I was told, and I think I have one post maybe and just a few comments, but I came here because I was told this is the place to be for the civil discourse. Forget about threads, which, I don't do that, but which I have no problem with. But in the romance community, I've heard that's where you go for all of the, juicy gossip. Anyway. I was looking for the more above board thing, and I think and I did say that as a comment. It was my first comment on Substack on a post, and I commented on your post because I was a little disappointed by the vitriol. It was intense. And then I thought to myself, wow, and I thought it was a good idea too.
Yeah. Well, look, let's talk about the idea then. So maybe people listening to the podcast driving along have had the same negative reaction to it. So first of all, it comes from a place of we talk to each other as authors who are trying to be commercially successful on KDP. So that's the idea. Whether you use AI or whatever, you are trying to be commercially successful. But we know discoverability has become really difficult in the last couple of years. Everyone's finding it more difficult in the last couple of years. Not everyone, but most people. And this idea came from that place of trying to go back to where we were before, where people uploaded a book after 6 months work, not 6 hours work. And so you didn't have 5,000 books to every one, AI book to whatever the ratio is. We know that's happening. Writing with AI, I've always been supportive of AI, and people want to write with AI. I've never called them out at all. In fact, I've been really fascinated with that process. But from what I can see, the people who are writing well with AI are making money because they're pouring their own creativity into that, leveraging AI to do that. This is not aimed at them. It's aimed at the kind of low content people who see a cover, basically copy it, and then get AI to write something on the inside, and they sell a dozen books. But if they do that 100 times a day because they've got multiple KDP accounts to bust the 3 limit, that is what's happening. Let's not be naive about it. That's happening in industrial levels. So my idea, $300 perhaps a bit much, but we're trying to think of something. People did become fixated on the $300. I think maybe rather than discussing the idea of some sort of fee to try and reduce this, it's, well, that's too much. Okay, maybe that's too much. And maybe it would work better if it was, and I did actually say this in the post, but everyone missed it, if it was per title, not per derivative. So if you had one book in English, that's the title. Then you have the paperback, the audiobook, the translations and everything else. That all comes under the title. So you're not paying $300 each time you do a new derivative of it. But, maybe it should be less. But I think do we carry on as we are with KDP with a 0 bar for entry? Or do we think we want some form of hurdle, some form of cost for entry that just cuts out? I think it would be an exponential. I think a small amount would cut out a big percentage.
Yeah, I actually, one of the comment, I'm in a little bit of a comment, discussion, and mentioned just having some skin in the game because as a professional author, I really was disappointed with the $300 being such a focus, and we could debate this. This is obviously just a thought experiment and it's theoretical, but the idea that there's 0 entry, you could potentially have this edited, your books edited with AI or proofread with AI. So, and obviously covers with AI. So really this is like a 0 friction. It could be a 0 friction entry point now. And for a digital product that other people are trying to make a career on and trying to, come at this in a professional angle, whether you're using AI to do any part of the process, it just seems maybe unrealistic because I don't see a lot of other professional environments where there's a 0 friction model, for a product. And that's kind of what I said. Listen, I'm coming at this from someone who's making a career, trying to have this product as professional as possible. I'm paying right now for editing. I'm paying for cover design. I'm paying for all of these things. So $300, not per derivative. The last comment was $1,200 is ridiculous. Well, yeah, I would not want to pay $1,200, for one title, but it just didn't seem outrageous. But certainly calling it elitist, I thought was harsh.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the opposite of elite. It's supposed to support hardworking KDP authors against factories that are producing a glut of content, and that includes AI authors, by the way. And anyway, yeah, so I think that I mean, it's not really zero entry anyway. Whilst you could use AI for everything, nearly everybody I know pays something along the way to get their book to the point of
Same.
uploading. They've already paid author, they've already paid for cover design, they've already paid for editing and so on. So this would be to stop the people who are, I suppose, doing it absolutely zero. Now, I'm trying to think about this. Who are the people who are going to be upset? So the people who are going to be upset are the people who have a modern AI run model, which is lots of titles that sell a little. So you produce, I don't know, 100 books a week, and they only sell 25 copies each. And that turns over actually quite a lot of money. But why do they only sell 25 copies?
Right, because the reader experience is not good, and so they're stopping short of having an experience that is, I think, enjoyable enough to, hey, I want to come back and read your next book and your next book. And when I say zero entry, I definitely not us, because when I say us, I mean the professional author. I'm talking about people who are uploading multiple books that are really doing nothing with it. I mean, I was thinking of an author who, writes an AI book, but then say, okay, yes, I'm going to use a different AI for publishing or editing and a different AI for proofreading. And then, you could do this with $0. Even put it through multiple processes is what I'm saying. That's I think what we're up against. And maybe someone needs to explain it so that I could understand better, because one of the arguments seems to be that a sheer volume of books isn't hurting our discoverability, that this has been happening for years with low content books, with other models, and that AI isn't the problem. And I guess am I looking at it wrong? Because in my mind, the sheer number of books does hurt discoverability, does it not? I don't know. Maybe
Sure.
I'm looking at it wrong.
It has to.
Right?
It has to. And why is Amazon implementing so many changes over the last year to sort of slow down the charts and slow down comments going up? And they're trying to protect themselves from this onslaught of titles. So they've got time just to try and filter. I've got a friend releasing today or yesterday, and she's still waiting for the reviews to turn up. That didn't used to happen, or last week actually. Yeah, I suppose so. This the other thing. So you've got people who that business model who fire off hundreds of books and sell a few of each copy. So that is in danger from this upload, because that becomes unprofitable. Because I guess you need to make, under the $300, maybe that's too much, you needed to make $600 across all formats of that title. That's all the formats of that title. You need to make $600 to break even, to come back. Maybe there's also many, many more authors than I anticipated who are in indie publishing not to make money, but just to publish, and they're upset as well, because for them, there's no bar to entry. And I absolutely don't want them to be caught up in this at all. I want people to be able to publish and see their works published, and whether they sell a few copies or not is neither here nor there. And if they're not that commercially minded about it, it's an art form for them. I absolutely don't want them to be caught up in this, and that wasn't the intention. That is an unforeseen circumstance. And I should also say, this is just a place to speculate some ideas, right, and have a debate. That's all this was. I don't work for Amazon. I'm not implementing this. People are talking to me about the $300 as if I'm on the board of Amazon and I've made this decision. It's just an idea, and I will talk to Amazon and see what they're thinking on this front. But it won't be my responsibility if they do something. I will be blamed, though, I think.
I think you will. If Amazon, I hope you understand, if Amazon does start charging, that comment section is going to get pretty worse.
It is. There were a few positive comments, and I will say in the background, people always message me in the background. They did this when I did a pro AI piece. I get lots of private messages from people saying, "Oh, that's great," but they won't speak publicly. And the same things happened here. So I've had private DMs. I'm not going to mention names, obviously. I've also seen my paid Substack subscribers go up 800% today. So not from a pretty low base, but I'm knocking on $600 a year. And I don't ever ask people to subscribe for money. I don't put anything behind a paywall, but enough people today have also been quite inspired by this. So anyway, parking that, someone did make the point that in the app world, there's the Apple App Store and then there's the Android App Store. The Apple App Store is gate kept to an extent that you have to enroll in the Apple program, which costs you money and a subscription to be able to upload, and the Android one isn't, and it shows. It shows with a clear amount of stuff you have to wade through on the Android App Store compared to when an app's on an Apple store. It's at least gone through some sort of quality check. I mean, Amazon does that anyway. It does do quality checks on books. It doesn't accept every book that gets uploaded. And, you know, we know from Drafted Digital that they don't accept every book, and that number's actually getting pretty high. Amazon's probably even, you know, significantly higher than that because they deal with significant numbers. So it's not actually a free playground anyway. There's already some gatekeeping. Anyway, I feel a bit battered and a bit disappointed in a couple of people who are in our community. You know, you just want people to be nice, right?
Well, that's kind of where I came in and said, okay, this is here I am. I'm on Substack. I guess we'll wade right in. Just obviously, these are people who don't know you and what you want to do for this community and always have. You know, when I saw kind of comments that talked about, oh, gatekeeping, you know, why would anyone want it? That isn't you at all. That's the opposite of why we're here. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We want to make this environment one that rewards the work effort that goes in. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, $300 is an eye-catching amount for people to do it. So think of it in your mind, if you like, as $50 or $75 or even $25. A couple of people said that 99% of indie authors would immediately would disappear under the $300. I don't see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it was completely civil, I think it could be a really interesting, and is an interesting discussion. But it's the other part of it that I find a little bit, you know, I don't love courting controversy, to be perfectly honest. And so for me, you know, it was really interesting. And I thought, I understand why those people said, okay, maybe I won't comment, but I couldn't not comment. And
well, thank you. I appreciated you commenting. Michelle Honecker commented positively, and my friend Boo commented, and it's just a discussion area for something that is happening in our industry and that we need to talk about. So anyway, I won't sleep particularly well tonight knowing this is going on in the background, but we shouldn't stop having the debate. So
I agree with that. I think you could turn off. I noticed that on the email. Does it email you when you comment? I mean, I'm brand new to Substack, but it emails me every time someone comments. So yeah, maybe you should turn that off.
Yeah, I should probably turn that off. That'd be a good idea. Good. Anyway, I thought we'd just add this in so people could see I've reacted to it. And if you are upset by the suggestion of $300, it really is just thinking out loud and trying to address a problem. Maybe it was clumsy of me to come up with such a big figure, but it's a discussion area. Don't take it too seriously. And we'll let the rest of the podcast now continue.
Everything. It was just such a great few days. I love being around authors, don't you? They're just
I do. You know, we talked about this last week. We talked about the value of an in-person author event, and I think both of us felt it. And I think it was quite interesting how the mood changed over just being together for 3 days. And, you know, we went out and had wonderful meals in the evening as well. A really fun place, Savannah, and food was fantastic. I had one of the best meals I've had in years. Which is this Maui in half a pineapple. Absolutely superb.
Pineapple explosion? Was that the name of
Pineapple
it?
confusion? Confusion?
Explosion.
No. Situation. I think it was the pineapple situation.
That could be a series. I think you should consider.
Again, your mind is taking you to the other use of pineapple.
No, I was thinking more like like a SpongeBob spinoff type thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you were. We went to a piano bar, which was fun as well, wasn't it?
Well, it was funny because that was amazing. But after that night, the first time I talked around the table, I said something and I turned to Tina and I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound like I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes. What's going on with my voice? She said, I wonder if it was singing out loud at the top of your lungs for 4 hours straight. I said, no, that's probably what it is.
And we drank quite a lot of beer. One thing I noticed I was a bit surprised about, Oasis are big in America, right? Everyone knows Oasis.
I mean, I thought so, but there was really, when that song came on, there was us and then one table that we found out her grandmother was from England or something, and she visits there all the time. She was the only
So let me tell you, if you're in a bar anywhere in the UK, the setup of this bar, there were 2 pianos, grand pianos opposite each other. they had like 4 or 5 musicians and singers, and they rotated. How talented they were! They rotated through. Some were playing drums, some were singing. Then they'd move positions, and they're playing piano. They knew every song and every word, and so you put requests in, and it was all the big numbers and everything, the Britney songs or whatever, and a bit of Taylor. Everyone's belting out all the words. It's like karaoke, but professionally sang, and you sing along with them. And then we thought, don't look back and go, if that came on in that environment in the UK, everyone's got their shirt, all the men have their shirts off and arms in the air, lighters in the air, and that is going to go down a storm. It barely registered in that room, and that really surprised me.
I was shocked. I'll admit I was shocked, but I had fun singing it, but I was surprised. Everybody kind of was like, okay, bathroom break kind of thing. Like, what's happening?
But it's an anthem. It's an anthem.
I know.
Okay.
Well, I had a good time.
I think that's it. So I've got, I keep, the trouble with doing this podcast is people give you good ideas all the time. So I've got my box set I'm going to put on Etsy. I have got all my books in the same format now. They're behind me if you're watching YouTube. Actually, you can't see them. There. They're now all 6x9. You can see the bigger versions of my novella, the orange one at the end there. So they're all 6x9, so they can go into a box set sleeve, which I now need to design and get printed, and then test this as a gift idea, because it's Cold War thrillers for Grandad type thing, on Etsy. And I've got to do my YouTube thing, but I need to build up my viewing hours. I've got 560 odd viewing hours, I think, on my YouTube accounts. And I've got a lot of Cold War Jets material that, my BBC days, I can use that. So I'm going to upload that. So I've got stuff to do. I should also mention that for those people who were on the wait list for the AI translations course, that goes live today. Might still, depending on when you're listening to this, you might still have a chance to join the wait list. Now they get an incredible deal because it's $299 if you're on the wait list. And then it goes to full price when it gets launched next week, I think, at $399. And the AI translations course, I am beside myself with excitement about. I think it's going to do 2 things. It's going to be an excellent set of prompts that's going to enable you to do really high quality translations, not just the first pass you get out of some of the systems, but it's also going to introduce you to working with AI in a way you probably haven't before. If you're anything like me, you've been using it fairly surface-like up until now. This will teach you how to use it in a more structured way, and you can apply the principles you're going to learn in this course to almost any other area you want to use AI for. So yeah, I'm excited about that. If you go to learnselfpublishing.com/AI translations, you might be in time to join the waitlist. Maybe I'll launch it in the evening so you get a chance if you're listening on Friday.
That is exciting, James. And I think, obviously there was a hunger and an appetite for translations at this event. Everyone talked about, this is something that I want to do. I've been doing it only because I was with you and some other people in London last year that kind of brought me on board. And since I kind of am moving from hybrid or trad back to indie, I will say for me, the translations have been huge, almost a lifesaver. I am excited about the course too, because I want to get better at it. As I move into all of the countries, I want to do it right. And so this is exciting. And I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll look forward to talking a bit more about that in the future. Great. Okay. I think that is it from us. I probably need to go to sleep at some point. Although I did get some sleep on the plane. My watch told me I got 5.5 hours. That's pretty good, isn't it?
That's not bad. I mean, you were probably in one of those fancy, life
I was on the way back. I was in economy on the way there, but I'm too old not to have a lie flats on the way back. And I have to say, it was pretty, it was a rewards flight as well. So I used my air miles for that. It was half empty again. The flight out and the flight back, very empty, big 777 and be at British Airways. I don't know if that's just Atlanta this time of year is not particularly busy, or whether there's a bit of a downturn in tourism at the moment to the United States, or what it is, I don't know. But it was surprising. Normally when you get on flights these days, they seem to have organised a timetable that every flight is full. I hear that every time on a flight. We were a very full flight today. So it was a bit of a surprise to be on a plane where, particularly I was actually in premium economy on the way out. And I went to use the bathrooms listen to me like I've been in America, the bathroom, not the loo. I went to the bathroom and I looked in economy, and honestly, there were 150 seats and probably 25 people in that whole compartment. So that's great for them. They were lying in those middle seats as a bed. But
so I suspect that has less to do with Savannah. On the way down, we had one of those alerts that I could have, moved my flight because it was oversold and they were offering points or back. Yeah, so I had just the opposite experience heading into Savannah.
Wow.
So yeah, we have considered it because I'm a little bit of a travel point whore, so I was like, give me them, but I did want to get there. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Cissy.
Yes, it's good to see you. Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you next week.
Ciao.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
The Self-Publishing Show is sponsored by Pro Writing Aid. Built by writers for writers. Pro Writing Aid doesn't just check spelling and grammar, it helps you enhance your story's pacing, plot, characters, settings, and more. Now it can provide even on-demand developmental feedback for your entire manuscript with its manuscript analysis and virtual beta reader tools. Give your writing a competitive advantage by heading to prowritingaid.com. Sign up for free and use the code IWC15 for a 15% discount off annual subscriptions.